Hey friends and family, I have another chapter of Maccabees. Maccabees book 1 chapter 11. Here we go. And the king of Egypt gathered together a great host, like the sand that lieth upon the seashore, and many ships, and went about through deceit to get Alexander's kingdom and join it with his own. Whereupon he took his journey into Spain in a peaceable manner, so as they of the city opened unto him and met him, for the king Alexander had commanded them to do so, because he was his brother-in-law. Now as Ptolemy entered into the cities, he set in every one of them a garrison of soldiers to keep it. And when he had come near Azotus, they showed him the temple of Dagon that was burnt, and Azotus and the suburbs thereof that were destroyed, and the bodies that were cast abroad, and them that he had burnt in the battle, for they had made heaps of them by the way where he should pass. Also they told the king whatsoever Jonathan had done, to the intent that he might blame him, but the king held his peace. Then Jonathan met the king with great pomp at Joppa, where they saluted one another and lodged. Afterward Jonathan, when he had gone with the king to the river called Eleutherus, returned again to Jerusalem. King Ptolemy, therefore, having gotten the dominion of the cities by the sea unto Seleucia upon the sea coast, imagined wicked counsel against Alexander. Whereupon he sent ambassadors unto King Demetrius, saying, Come, let us make a league between us, and I will give thee my daughter whom Alexander hath, and thou shalt reign in thy father's kingdom. For I repent that I gave my daughter unto him, for he sought to slay me. Thus did he slander me, because he was desirous of his kingdom. Wherefore he took his daughter from him, and gave her to Demetrius, and forsook Alexander, so that their hatred was openly known. Then Ptolemy entered into Antiochus, where he set 2 crowns upon his head, the crown of Asia and the crown of Egypt. In the mean season was King Alexander in Cilicia, because those that dwelt in those parts had revolted from him. But when Alexander heard of this, he came to war against him. Whereupon King Ptolemy brought forth his host, and met him with a mighty power, and put him to flight. So Alexander fled into Arabia, there to be defeated. But King Ptolemy was exalted, for Zabdiel the Arabian took off Alexander's head, and set it to Ptolemy. King Ptolemy also died the 3rd day after, and they that were in strongholds were slain one after another. By this mean Demetrius reigned in the 167th year. At the same time Jonathan gathered together them that were in Judea to take the tower that was in Jerusalem. Excuse me. And he made many engines of war against it. Then came ungodly persons that hated their own people, went unto the king, and told him that Jonathan besieged the tower, whereof when he heard he was angry, and immediately removed. He came to Ptolemais, and wrote unto Jonathan that he should not lay siege to the tower, but come and speak with him at Ptolemais in great haste. Nevertheless Jonathan, when he heard this, commanded to besiege it still. And he chose certain of the elders of Israel and the priests, and put himself in peril, and took silver and gold and raiment and divers presents besides, and went to Ptolemais and to the king, where he found favor in his sight. And though certain ungodly men of the people had made complaints against him, yet the king entreated him as his predecessors had done before, and promoted him in the sights of his friends, and confirmed him as the high priesthood, and in all the honors he had before, and given him preeminence among the chief friends. Then Jonathan desired the king that he would make Judea free from tribute, as also the 3 governments, with the country of Samaria, and he promised him 300 talents. So the king consented, and wrote letters unto Jonathan of all these things after this manner. King Demetrius unto his brother Jonathan, and unto the nation of the Jews, sendeth greetings. We send you here a copy of the letter which we did write unto our cousin Lesthenes concerning you, that ye might see it. King Demetrius unto his father Lesthenes sendeth greetings. We are determined to do good to the people of the Jews, who are our friends, and keep covenant with us because of their good will towards us. Wherefore we have ratified unto them the borders of Judea, with the 3 governments of Ephraim, Leda, Ramathaim, that were added into to Judea from the country of Samaria, and all these things appertaining to them, for as such as do sacrifice in Jerusalem, instead of payments which the king received from them yearly, aforetime, out of the fruits of the earth of the trees. And as for other things that belong unto us, of the tithes and customs pertaining unto us, as also the salt pits and the crown taxes which are due unto us, we discharge them all of their relief, and nothing hereof shall be revoked from this time forevermore. Now therefore see that thou make a copy of these things, and let it be delivered unto Jonathan, and set it upon the holy mount in a conspicuous place. After this, when King Demetrius saw that the land was quiet before him, there was no resistance was made against him, he sent away all of his forces, every one to his own place, except certain bands of strangers whom he gathered from the isles of the heathen. Wherefore all the forces of his fathers hated him. Moreover, there was one, Tryphon, that had been Alexander's part afore, who, seeing that all the host murmured against Demetrius, went to Simalcu, the Arabian, that brought up Antiochus the young son of Alexander, and laid sore upon him to deliver him this young Antiochus, that he might reign in his father's stead. For him, therefore, all that Demetrius had done, and how his men of war were at enmity with him, and there he remained a long season. In the meantime, Jonathan said unto King Demetrius that he would cast those of the tower out of Jerusalem, and those also in the fortresses, for they fought against Israel. So Demetrius said unto Jonathan, saying, I will not only do this for thee and thy people, but I will greatly honor thee and thy nations, if opportunity serve. Now therefore thou shalt do well if thou send me men to help me, for all my forces have gone from me. Upon this Jonathan sent him 3,000 strong men unto Antioch, when they came to the king was very glad of their coming. Howbeit they that were of the city gathered themselves together in the midst of the city, to the number of 120,000 men, and would have slain the king. Wherefore the king fled into the court where they of the city kept the passages of the city, and began to fight. Then the king called to the Jews for help, who came unto him all at once, and dispersing themselves through the city, slain that day in the city to the number of 100,000. Also they set fire to the city, and gave many spoils that day, and delivered the king. So when they of the city saw that the Jews had gotten the city as they would, their courage was abated. Wherefore they made supplications to the king, and cried, saying, Grant us peace, and let the Jews cease from assaulting us in the city. With that they cast away their weapons, and made peace, and the Jews were honored in the sight of the king, and in the sight of all that were in his realm. They returned to Jerusalem, having great spoils. So Demetrius sat on the throne of his kingdom, and the land was quiet before him. Nevertheless he dissembled in all that he ever spake, and estranged himself from Jonathan. Never rewarded he him according to the benefits which he had received him, but troubled him very sore. After this returned Tryphon, and with him young child Antiochus, who reigned, and was crowned. Then there gathered unto him all the men of war, whom Demetrius had put away, and they fought against Demetrius, who turned his back and fled. Moreover, Tryphon took the elephants, and won Antioch. At that time young Antiochus wrote unto Jonathan, saying, I confirm thee in the high priesthood, and appoint thee ruler over the 4 governments, and to be one of the king's friends. Almost done. Upon this he sent him golden vessels to be served in, and gave him leave to drink in gold, and to be clothed in purple, and wear a golden buckle. His brother Simon also he made captain from the place called the Ladder of Tyrus unto the borders of Egypt. Then Jonathan went forth and passed through the cities beyond the waters. And all the forces of Syria gathered themselves up unto him to help him. And when he came to Ascalon, they the city met him honorably. And from whence he went to Gaza, but they of Gaza shut him out. Therefore he laid siege unto it, and burned the suburbs thereof with fire, and spoiled them. Afterward, when they of Gaza made supplications unto Jonathan, he made peace with them, and took the sons of their chief men for hostage, and sent them to Jerusalem, and passed through this country of Damascus. Now when Jonathan heard that Demetrius' princes were come to Cadiz, which is in Galilee, with great power, purposing to remove him from the country, he went to meet him and left Simon's brother in the country. Then Simon encamped against Bethsura, and fought against it long season, and shut it up. But they desired to have peace with him, which he granted them, and then put them out of thence, and took the city, and set a garrison in it. As for Jonathan and his host, they pitched at the water of Gennesar, from whence betimes in the morning they gat him to the plain of Nesor. And behold, the host of strangers met them in the plain, who, having laid men in ambush for him in the mountains, came themselves over against him. So when they laid in ambush, rose out of their places, and joined battle, all that were of Jonathan's side fled, insomuch that there was not one left except Mattathias, the son of Absalom, and Judas, the son of Calphi, the captains of the hosts. Then Jonathan rent his clothes, cast earth upon his head, and prayed. Afterwards, turning again to battle, he put them in flight, and so they ran. Now when his own men that were fled saw this, they turned again unto him, and when with him pursued them to Cadiz, even unto their own tents, and there they camped. So there were slain of the heathen that day about 3,000 men, but Jonathan returned to Jerusalem. Thank you guys.